You're now listening.
You're now listening to Shameless Goat.
The Shameless Goats.
The Shameless Goat.
How's everybody doing today?
Doing great.
What's going on, man?
Getting ready for another episode of Shameless Goats podcast. We have a very special guest today. We have the former vice mayor of the city of Miami Gardens, Vice Mayor Erhabor Ighodaro.
Hello. Dalu.
Hey.
Kidney.
So what is that actually?
What's going on?
What's going on?
I'm here with my homies, as they say.
The Shameless Goats.
Shameless Goats. All right, God, tell us where you're from.
I originally was born in Benin City, Nigeria. I was a student athlete, played basketball for Edo Beads in Benin and junior national basketball, and I was recruited to play basketball in the United States. Been here over 25 years, and great to be a part of this community of diaspora. We have a rich African diaspora community in South Florida. I was the former president of the Nigerian American Foundation.
All right.
So I'm doing it, and with your help, we'll take you to the next level.
Yeah, you definitely are doing it. We hope you can make it to the next level. And what are some of the things you did before you got to the Miami Gardens City Council?
I'm a teacher, public school teacher, taught at Norland Middle School and Miami Norland Senior High School.
Vikings.
The Vikings.
Yes,
Yeah, go Vikings.
I was a Spartan, so I don't know what y'all talking
watch
about.
yourself. You outnumbered, man. You be silent, or you risk the risk.
Or catching these hands.
And college professor at Florida Memorial University. I taught criminal justice. I still do teach criminal justice at Miami-Dade College and Florida Memorial University. I'm also a pastor in the church of Miami Gardens African Methodist Episcopal Church.
All right.
Yes.
Man, we get down on this show.
Let's
So
go.
we gonna hold our. I'm gonna hold my language back.
Hey, have
I'm gonna try
mercy,
to, Pastor.
have mercy. You have
I'm gonna
grace for the next 30 minutes.
I'm gonna
That's
try.
funny.
Okay, so that's good. So tell us about what you're doing now. Like, give the people, because it's not too often we speak to people or politicians, so we want to know like the actual person, not just the politician.
I'm a regular guy, I never thought I had any interest in politics until I met in college a mentor of mine, the late Dr. Robert Ingram, was the mayor of Opelika.
Yeah.
Took me,
I remember him.
You remember him? He was a brilliant guy. Took me under his wings and got me into politics. He was a family man. He was a pastor as well as my pastor. He actually married me. I'm married to a beautiful Bahamian queen,
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Queen Shannon.
And she's running for city council in Miami Gardens right now. She's
All
just
right.
been endorsed by all the major organizations. She's going to win. We have beautiful twin daughters.
Yeah, I seen the girls.
They're just turning 14. And, man, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. So that's me.
That's good.
Happy to hear that.
I'm
That's
happy to
good.
hear that, too.
So right now you have an election coming up on the 18th of August.
18th of August,
All
but
right.
voting actually started already. Those of you that live in the boundaries of Miami Gardens, Miramar, Opelika, Pembroke Pines, Pembroke Park, West Park, Miami Gardens, of course. Those of you who have voted for me in the past, I want to give a shout out to the Agbegbes. I won't be elected without them. This is a household of voters. Mom is being serial. Sir has been helping us, and Dad, Chief Agbegbe.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for the work you're doing, and I won my first election in Miami Gardens in 2014 with the highest amount of votes in the history of the city.
Wow.
When people said I couldn't win,
That's
this
good.
guy with a funny name.
That's good.
And how do you say your last name? Erhabor?
Erhabor is my first name. Ighodaro.
There you go.
Last
There
name,
you go.
Ighodaro.
Ighodaro.
Oladipo?
Ogunlade.
Ogunlade. I can pronounce that.
Yeah.
Yes, but if you can't pronounce the name, just the name you can't pronounce, vote for that guy.
That's funny. So we know that you were the former vice mayor of the city of Miami Gardens, and the guy who has term limited, Senator Oscar Brannon, he used to be a vice mayor of Miami Gardens.
Yes.
So this is kind of trying to keep that Senate seat in the city of Miami Gardens. What is it, District 35?
District 35. Yeah,
Right.
he's a brilliant guy. He's following politics. So I look at the numbers. This is a heavily concentrated Miami Gardens seat.
All right. What are some of the boundaries in this seat?
This seat, again, you go the farthest north is Pembroke Pines Boulevard.
All right.
So you're going south to 87th Street of south of Opelika.
All right.
Yeah, so west you got to go to northeast 6th Avenue, and that's east. West is about 67th Avenue. It's a big district.
That's pretty big.
That is pretty big. So now I'm unlike Peter. I'm someone who's not particularly into politics. So for somebody like myself who's not particularly into politics, like, why should we be interested in politics?
Oh, listen, I asked the same question of my mentor a long time ago. He gave me the analogy of a basketball player because I'm an athlete, so I can understand. If you're not in the game, you can't win.
Yeah.
You got to be in the game to win.
Yeah.
And so most of you are athletes. I see all your buffed young men, but but you got not only be in the game, you got to be on the top of your game.
Yeah.
Dennis Rodman was one of the best rebounders in the league, but if they could get into Dennis Rodman's head, he's going to foul out. He's going to be on the bench. He can't do nothing while he's on the bench.
Right.
So your talent is wasted, not only because you're not a player, but you're not in the game.
No, something that's really, really funny about what you were talking about, you being into basketball. When we were thinking about things to talk about, we were like, is he into basketball? So it's so funny that you're actually a basketball player. So what I want to do, I want to tie in the basketball with something that's going on right now.
Right.
So because of the COVID and everything going on right now, the NBA is about to open again.
Yes.
Like, how do you feel about things opening again, whether it's the NBA, NFL, schools, anything like that?
This I can say, hell no.
Absolutely.
For which part?
All of them.
For all of it?
All of them. I'm not. Listen, my first obligation is to take care of God's people.
Yeah.
I'm a pastor. I'm my father. I will not be sending my child to nobody's school.
Absolutely.
It is not safe. We're using political agendas to control the decisions that we make. It is just for political expedience that the president and the state governor of Florida is pushing us back. This whole thing spiked because we rushed back in the economy too soon.
Yeah, reopening everything.
We reopened too soon. And we're leading not only the nation, the world now in the number of infections. And
Right here in Florida.
But just to play devil's advocate, Vice Mayor.
Yes.
So we do know that a lot of people, tons of people, millions of people, we just set records. So many people lost jobs when this COVID happened.
Yes.
And people need to go back to work. A lot of people don't have the savings to just sit it out. So how do you balance that as a decision maker with health as well? Because it's important, but people need their money too.
It's a good introspective question, young man. But listen, first of all, life is most important. How much money can you spend? You know how many people in the Nigerian community, you know how many people were buried in this community recently? Secondly, we got to follow the signs. It makes sense to do it to contain this disease so that you take care of it once and for all, rather than have it in the long term. We're going to cost us more money. So we have to make sure. Science is telling us that we need to have at least 33,000 tests per day in Florida. We're only doing 9,000.
Wow.
And the president of the United States said, we shouldn't be testing because if we test, we're going to get more positives. What kind of sense is that?
Now that's
That's a stupid guy.
I think he just, he's trying to win. He wants it to look better for his reelection chances. Like it's not as out there as it is.
Of course. We gotta protect one another, man. Like I said, I don't want to preach, but this is the plague of our time.
Yeah, it is.
We gotta think of it like that.
I feel like they're attacking black people. I think this disease was created. That's just my mindset.
Yeah. You're not far fetched.
And then they're going ahead and testing it in Africa. Like,
You're not far fetched.
how did we come to this idea that Africa is who we're going to test, the vaccinations on,
That's where they want to test it in Africa? I didn't.
Yeah, I saw that post.
They're actually testing it already.
Oh, they are.
The vaccinations in Africa.
Wow.
And
I didn't know
crazy
that.
to me. So I feel like they're trying to get rid of us.
It's not far-fetched. Listen, we those of you who follow, I'm a student of Black history. I taught.
Me too.
I was taught by the best at Florida Memorial, the home of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Listen, if you know anything about Black history, Tuskegee experiment was orchestrated by the government.
Yeah.
So it's not far-fetched for you to make this leap in judgment. Because we know that, at least science is telling us that the origins of this current virus is from China.
Absolutely.
Right? And we know that there is a huge move to depopulate the world's population.
Absolutely.
You know, and we
see that I could see, but I don't know if it's targeted towards Black people, like Mike said.
Well, why is it disproportionately affecting us then?
So I think like because a lot of the resources weren't here for us to try to get healthy. Like they weren't. We have the Hard Rock Stadium, thank God, but a lot of other communities, not Miami Gardens, that don't have former, Senate representation. They weren't opening up testing sites there. They weren't helping people to get healthy.
But to your original point about healthcare, to answer Mike's question, I think a lot of that could be because we lack healthcare in our community. A lot of people who have
pre-existing conditions,
or people who got infected and couldn't recover. They have a lot of what's that thing called, vitamin D deficiency. It's a whole bunch of things that could be the reason to why Black people are disproportionately affected worse by it. And it doesn't mean that we are being targeted.
But I also feel like, again, back to what I said earlier, this is something that was created. So when you create it, you have a vision in mind as to what you wanted to happen with the disease.
And it could have been created. I'm just saying that doesn't mean it was targeted for Black people.
Well, hell, it's affecting us the most. Why not Spanish people like that? Why not,
Caucasians? That was the answer to what you just said.
Because, again, remember, we have ailments and sicknesses, but a lot of poor white people do too. There's a lot of trailer trash white people. There's a lot of, there's hillbillies. So, at the end of the day, but why is it affecting us the most?
Because of the things I just said.
At the end of the day, it does not matter what the intentions were. The outcome is obvious.
Yeah.
We're disproportionately affected.
So
you got to look at, and I concede to your point, because in every indices of social maladies in this country, Black people are always at the worst.
Exactly.
In terms of jobs, in terms of
opportunities,
the healthcare.
Yeah.
Look at, they say in the parlance of the street, when the economy catches the cold, Black folks get the pneumonia.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
We're the last to be hired and the first to be fired.
Yep.
Look at how many people are suffering from homelessness. How many of us don't have jobs. Look at the issues of diabetes and cancer, how it's disproportionately affecting us. It is when you have a system that is
in place,
institutionally
absolutely
designed to oppress people, because that is what this is all about. Racism is alive and well in this country. This country that's the original sin. Until we resolve and deal with that, and make sure that
what do you think are some of the solutions to that?
Education is one, and I was just talking to some people yesterday. In 1994 was when the state of Florida passed legislation to teach African and African American history. That's over a century of public education. That means we've not been taught the history of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Until today, that legislation is not being followed. So if you have a system where people are not thought about who they are, and many of our kids don't really understand the self-confidence that comes out of that. Right. But you're promoting white privilege, white as the dominant culture. Every child, there's been research and scientific studies that have been done over the last 50 years that show that white kids and Black kids consistently think of Black children as less than white kids.
And that's so funny. I have a daughter, right? So she was at her cousin's house, and he had a daughter as well. She's about 3. My daughter at the time was about 4. Happened about 3-4 months ago. And they were playing, and they had a baby doll. And the white baby doll is what they were fighting over. So when we gave them a Black baby doll, they didn't want it.
That's right.
And it's crazy because I've seen a lot of studies, a lot of videos, and it's the same thing.
Doll test. Remember the doll
Brown
test?
versus Board.
That's right.
1964.
And that was not only 50 years ago. They replicated the study about 4 or 5 years ago. the same phenomenon is still occurring in our community.
That's
Our
crazy.
kids don't know who they are.
Yeah, and like when you were talking about education, I learned more about Black history after I graduated from school. When we went to the history classes, the part on Black history was so small. Like all of
stick
Black
it in
history
February.
was in 10 pages.
They stuck it
15
in
pages.
February.
That's all of Black history until I graduated, and then I started reading on my own and learning on my own, and then it's like, wow, there's so much they didn't teach us. And then you go through, and it's sometimes growing up, there's a little bit of an identity crisis because I don't have a sense of myself and all the great things that people who look like me have accomplished. It's
All
only
they touched was slavery.
they have five of the 15 pages are on slavery, and then they'll have a page on Rosa Parks, and then
And
that's
Malcolm
it.
X.
They don't teach you about yourself, and I wish that the education, they can teach more of different people's cultures in education so that people can have a better sense of their own identity and their self-worth.
But Peter, you gotta understand. Our listeners gotta understand these dynamics, especially those of you who don't live in America or who probably don't understand the dynamics of race. The powerful don't teach the powerless how to take their power from them. It doesn't make sense. It's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
This racism is a relationship based on power dynamics. Why would I want to teach you about who you are when I know that was going to free your mind from the oppressive condition that I want you to be in?
Yeah.
So we got to change that. In over 150 years of public education, we're still in the position we're in. It is because the education system is working for the benefit of the oppressor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, speaking with identity, something that we've been trying to figure out how to do on our podcast is to explain our Nigerian identity, have a Nigerian pod. So have you ever had trouble with your identity when you came here being Nigerian?
Of course, every day. You know, they tell me when I started running for politics, they said, we think you have all the pedigree, you have the qualifications, you have the experience, but you have an impediment. You have a funny name.
That's funny.
You got to change your name in order to win.
No.
But I'm glad that I had a mentor, the late Dr. Robert Ingram. And Florida Moore said, man, you got to know who you are. Don't let nobody change your name. We want to get to be like you, Africans.
Right.
He said, remember, you Kunta Kinte, you're not Toby.
That's true.
You know, so you got to know who you are. Don't change who you are. And you have all of those every day. They try to remind me of who I am not.
Yeah.
I'm a child of God. I came here as a man that was raised as a free man.
That's true.
Nobody's going to put me in any box.
Like when I was younger, so everybody would say my name's Eugene, and that's because that was my father. That was my father's doing, saying our name is Eugene. And then he told us, he was like, yo, your name is actually Ejene. Now, and so I knew that growing up, but I never corrected people until one day I was just speaking to some friends. He was like, yo, first of all, Ejene sounds way better than Eugene, and you're not Eugene. So why not just tell people what it really is? And then ever since at whatever point in the time, I started, telling people, hey, you know what? It's actually Ejene. I know we were saying Eugene, but that was because when my dad came here, he was trying to fit in.
Yeah.
And when he came with his cousin, he did a even more extreme. He changed his whole last name. Like he changed his last name from what it's supposed to be, until he took his father's first name as his last name.
Wow.
And so he has an English last name, but it's like, yo, you're obviously not English. And so I see that identity struggle. And since that time, I've been pushing like, yo, this is how you say my name. And I've just been more Nigerian.
But see,
that point.
I think too, times have changed. I remember growing up where it used to be, they condemned you for being different, being African or being Haitian. If you're a Haitian, you ain't
African booty scratcher.
African booty scratcher. But I had a slick ass mouth, so I was like, listen, at least I know where I came from. Your daddy was a slave. Like that was just my mentality. As a kid, but I was real vocal with it. But I think now, times have changed. Now we're accepting who we are. We understand that this is not our country. We are here by force, and at the same time, I mean, it's not so bad over there. They living quite well. So
yeah, I think people start to uplift
It's
the African diaspora. Once you get out of the youthful stuff and you're learning, and kids can be mean. Once you get out of that, it seems like people start to uplift African culture. They say, hey, Nigerians are the most educated in the country. And they look at all this stuff and people say, wow, Nigerian culture, your family system is working. So many of you guys have educations. How is it? Because sometimes for me going through school, the higher you get in school, the fewer people that look like you are there. And I'd be like, how can we replicate our culture in a broader community? I'd like to still have tons of other people as I get higher and higher and higher.
See, I want to go back. I'll address that, but I think we must exploit the teaching opportunities or teachable moments that we have. You know, I know you were a child, but sometimes you got to understand where people are in terms of their mentality.
Yeah.
And you don't begin to fight your own brother.
Yeah.
Or calling your brother name because
Preach, Pastor.
they don't understand where you are, or they don't know where you came from.
Benny.
What they say is what they have been taught. You know, many of them have never been to Africa. They've seen Tarzan movies, and they think that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, so that
safari.
Yeah. So
Yo, let me cut you off for 1 second.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had a girlfriend who actually said that to me. I told her a story about going to Lion Country Safari, and she literally said to me, "Oh, because your mom wanted to feel like she was back home." Yo, it took hey, son, it took everything in me not to just strangle this girl, bro. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
No. I think the point you are making too about your name, Ejene, is a beautiful. You know how many. I'm not just talking about blacks, whites who have come to me. They want to adopt African names. They want to go over China, go around the world. You see, just do Google search of people outside of the African continent that want to claim the rich African cultures. They're dressing, they're speaking, they teach Yoruba in Harvard. Yeah. And they can't even teach that in University of Benin in Nigeria.
And they got it in the University of Florida too.
So you got to appreciate Barack Obama did not hide from who he was.
Yeah.
To compromise to become a president of the United States. In fact, he even added Hussein. He said, I'm Barack. When they were trying to castigate him as a Muslim, he said, no, Barack Hussein Obama. People like you when they may not really like you, but they respect you.
Yeah.
I agree.
If you're authentic to who you are.
I agree.
So stay true to who you are.
All day.
Yeah, and even all that Muslim stuff, all this stuff where people have this other mentality. I had a job where I worked in the legal department for the largest Muslim nonprofit in the state of Florida, the Council on American Islamic Relations of Florida. And they did a lot of civil rights work. I saw it as the NAACP for Muslims. And when I went to different events, you go to masjid, you go to all these stuff, you tell people about their rights. And I see the little kids when we're done, the little children are running around the ballrooms and stuff. And I'm like, man, that was me as a kid. That's me and Michael running around playing. But when people don't get opportunities to see other people, and you only see the differences that are on TV and movies and all the stereotypes, when that's all you see, it makes some people feel like the wrong way, because there's nothing wrong with all of our differences. There's nothing wrong with Muslims or Christians or anyone. People just need to learn more people and be more and understand them more.
Right.
Absolutely. You know, this is what American genius was built on that.
Yeah, it's a melting pot.
Bringing, I like to call it a salad bowl, not a melting pot.
All right.
You don't melt everything in you to become somebody else.
All right.
Salad has its own uniqueness. They all come together to make it what it is.
Yeah.
But I think America is great because they've been able to harness the talent of the world to make sure we are who we are as Americans. So, you know, if you look at how business works, you see how mergers are happening now between global industry giants. They know what it means to collaborate. And those of you who follow Nigerian music, collabo, right? You say, I want to collabo with this guy, I want to collabo. They know how to harness the talent of different, because it makes sense. Diversity pays. When Davido can sing a song in Yoruba and Igbo, and people can relate to that, that's a market that is expanded for him and for the music industry. So they know it makes sense to really know how to harness and bring people together.
Yeah, and the more skills, just like in sports, the more you can do on the field, the more effective you can be. I mean, if you got strength on the basketball court, if you got speed, if you got a jump shot, the more talents you have, the more you can do.
Now,
I want to just switch topics real quick.
All right.
I know as far as you running for office,
Yes.
with everything that was going on that transpired after the whole George Floyd
Yeah, that was
incident,
crazy. And Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna.
all of those situations, and the whole trying to
burn down the country.
What was your thoughts on that? Did you go out and protest? Like,
Of course, I did protest, but like Barack said, don't boo vote.
Yeah.
Use the power that is within you. I'm not saying protest don't. I believe, like I said, I'm a student of the Bible, and I believe the marches when God said march around the walls of Jericho and the walls came down. I believe that. When the civil rights movement started, and Dr. King was saying we gotta do protest march and boycott.
Yeah.
It worked, right? But I'm saying the political process must be exploited to the benefit of our people. Many of us don't vote, say our vote don't count. Yes, if you don't vote, you don't count.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that what the system, you got to get in the house to be able to fix the problem.
Yeah.
So we got to get in, we have to find how to elect people like you, young people. I approached this young brother, I said, listen, I want you to run for my seat.
Yeah.
And he was making all kind of excuses. When I got on the city council, the first thing I did, because I have boards, I have to appoint people.
Yeah.
I appointed Chief Joseph Abadi to one of our major boards in the city of Miami-Gardens, the most powerful board. He serves on, and I asked him to run for it. He said, no, I'm shying away from that. So I had no models. There was no model in this community for me to follow, but because God put it in me, and Dr. Ingram nurtured that. I said, hey, I gotta play this game to the highest level.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, when the election's over, I know some people who didn't vote in the presidential election, and then I saw them complaining. And for me, if you didn't vote, don't complain.
just
Like,
shut your mouth.
yeah, like, you gotta participate. You have to do something. Like, why wait until the outcome you don't like and then spend 4 years or 8 years complaining about a situation that you could have tried to work to change? So I always encourage people to get out and vote instead of don't just complain. Like, I know another issue that people had on their minds was the officers, the officer in the George Floyd situation, and
defunding the police.
yeah, some people want to defund police departments. What do you think about what do you think they're trying to express when they say defund the police department? And then what do you think about that idea of maybe police reform in general?
Listen, my doctorate is in conflict resolution. I know how to fix problems. I don't create problems. I think, the frustration from our young people, and many people who are talking about defunding police, is because of the historic vestiges of racism in the country. We got to change it. I don't think it is the intention to make us have a society that doesn't have law and order.
Yeah.
Nobody wants
Nobody
that.
wants ananarchy.
No, nobody wants that. But they
well,
want
I
to
wouldn't
make.
say nobody.
I
wouldn't say nobody.
Nobody wants that.
No real
No person wants
thinking
that.
person want to have a society. You want to protect your family.
Yeah.
I agree.
At the end of the day, you want to have a safe environment.
I'm not saying that I want that,
Yeah.
but I have heard people say that they want complete anarchy.
They don't know what they're thinking.
And I agree with that. They don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah. I teach criminal justice, and I think you have to. I have a model. You have it's three. You gotta look at three dimensions of translational, the transactional, and the transformational models of how you fix this problem. One is you gotta look at how we talk about one another. It's not us versus police. Many of our young people. I taught at Norland Middle School. I was the Law Academy of Law lead teacher there. I mentored them to go into law enforcement. They followed me to Florida Memorial, and now are police officers.
That's good.
Many of them live in our community. They make a living out of law enforcement.
That's good.
We have, how many percentage of judges in this country are blacks? Less than 3%.
Yeah, not a lot.
So on the back end, we are almost 55% in the prison population.
Yep.
And you're gonna go face somebody that don't look like you in the courtroom. Why do you think they're gonna be sympathetic to your needs?
But you know what's funny? When I worked at Miami-Dade, which I'm sorry to cut you off, I worked in the School of Justice as an admissions advisor, and I saw a lot of black people working to do corrections. But the majority of people who applied for the police department and who were applying for those positions were all Spanish and white. And so it made no sense to me that, we're policing our own people, almost like house niggas in jail. But when it comes to, being on the streets, the people who make the arrests, they don't look like us.
Right.
And that's something I always felt like, I started applying because I said, I can't, like you said before, you can't change the house if you're not in it.
Yes, sir. Listen, in Miami Gardens, we had our own gaffes.
Yeah.
When I got on the council about 8 years ago, we found out all of the police, almost 70% of the police officers that we had at the inception of the city were from out of state. They didn't live here. That was a problem. We had to intentionally put a recruitment program to make sure we hire residents of Miami Gardens. That's every tenant
they call
of
that community policing.
Community policing speaks to that. And we saw some movement because, if you have somebody that look like you and somebody that knows the neighborhood, you're more comfortable with giving out information. They're not talking about no snitching and all this stuff because they feel like you're part of the community.
Well, the four of us agree or seem to agree that we shouldn't defund the police. So I'll play devil's advocate.
So no.
Hold on.
Devil's advocate on defunding the police?
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate on defunding the police. So what do you say for people who argue that if you take some money away from the police, you can put it into social issues concerning black people or our communities?
I guess you're gonna have to tell me how do you do public safety with less police officers? One, in Miami Gardens, for instance, for the size of our city, we should have about 290 police officers.
Wow.
We only have 211. So when you're strained by the lack of capacity in terms of personnel, and you wonder why people are calling the police and cannot get answers because people are still going to call for help. There's still going to be crime.
Yeah.
Right? How do you address a major social policy without having capacity to address it? That's one. But in terms of the real question, I think people are looking at why do we not have enough educators, social workers, counselors, social providers in our community.
Right.
I think it's not an either or, right?
Right.
The argument, I think, that underscore what they're trying to say is we need social help, we need social services.
And you're saying you don't think you should take money away from the police to do those things?
Why are you focusing narrowly on that when you know we're strained? I just give you an example.
Yeah, he said we're supposed to have 290 and you said we're at 211?
We're already strained.
Right.
We're supposed to have 290?
Right. You the solution is proper. You got to transform the whole thing. We're not properly funding our schools.
Right.
So that to me is the issue. Instead of the money going to a lot of these cops and all the extra budgets they have, because they have very, very large budgets.
So you do agree with defunding the police?
Yeah, I'm not saying that you get rid of the police or eradicate the idea of having a police station or a police department. I'm saying you take some of those resources and you put them in other areas. There's in black neighborhoods, there's a lot of resources that we're lacking. Whether it's after school activities, youth centers. It's just things that the black community can do with the money better than. And even look at it like this: a lot of back to what he was saying about how 70% of the police officers didn't live in Miami Gardens, or they're from different states.
Out of state.
When they get these jobs that pay 40, 50, 60, 70,000, 100,000, they go back to Pembroke Pines or Weston and pay taxes there. So how does that even help us in our own community?
Right. So I get what you're saying. So to me, I think that the response to that is, well, where are the parts of the police that are being overfunded? Like if you're going to tell me that we should take money away from anything, there has to be a logical reason why. It can't, to me, in my opinion, I don't think you take money from something because you're saying that, hey, look what happened to George Floyd. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like, where exactly, specifically, are the problems with the police department?
You're asking the right intelligent question. I think most people will follow the defunding kind of argument. They've not looked at the numbers that I just gave you, right? It's almost like I'm a public school teacher. I'm a believer in public education.
Yeah.
Right? But I also understand there's room for public-private partnership. So the idea of not supporting private schools because of the assertion that you're taking money from public education to fund private schools, I think is a false choice. You know, there's a room for everyone to thrive if we properly fund education in the state of Florida. Right. So if you properly fund education, you will not, if you have counsel, we used to have counselors in schools. You don't have to defund the police, to take money from police.
Right.
Especially when you know police is already strained. In our city, for instance, maybe there are some other departments across the country that may have robust or fat police department. I'm not talking to that issues, those issues. I'm talking about what I know in Miami Gardens.
So one more devil's advocate point. Again, this is not my point, but it's something that I've heard.
Right.
It's been argued that the police is based on a racist system, and therefore you cannot have a system that's inherently racist. Therefore, if you constantly reform, you'll still get the same outcome of racial inequality in the police. What do you say to that?
You're going to have to destroy the system of America. Every system in America, if you look at the judicial system, if you look at the medical field, if you look at education, is dominated by not black folks.
Right.
So why are you just focusing on police?
Yeah.
So you have to do a systemic overhaul of the power dynamics in all disciplines in America. If that's your logic, if that's your argument.
I agree. It's funny, that actually was a part of my response when I heard that. I was like, well, the whole thing's racist, so why you're going to just shut down the entire country and build it all up? Like, you can't do that. That's an impractical thing. I think the best thing is to reconstruct, but you can't just completely just destroy it.
You can let me say it. I know what criminal justice is about. I teach it. You can train dogs and canine to do things.
Right.
You mean you can train human beings? These police officers, there's a way you can recruit the best talents.
Right.
There's a way you can identify. It's supposed to go through the psychologicals. That tells you that the psychologist is not working.
Yeah.
Right? They should be able to weed out those bad cops. They shouldn't be hired in the first place. And that's one of the reasons why many blacks could not enter the police force, because they were weeded out because of those psychological tests. So there has to be a way to do better recruitment, better training, and better accountability that will make police, the way it was originally designed to be, was public service, not crime fighting. So we gotta reorientate ourselves.
And for me, part of that is it's a budgetary issue. You have so many people fighting for a limited pie, and I think Miami Gardens was incorporated in 2005. Three. All right, 2003. And then after we became a city, a couple years later, we got a police department. A couple years later, the statistics changed around Miami Gardens. But when people were complaining before, it was unincorporated Miami-Dade County. We didn't have specific Taylor in representation. We didn't have someone in the House who came from us. We didn't have someone in the Senate who came from us who can go there and try to get legislation and bring home some pork. So for me, that's why people need to get in the game. Don't just complain. Don't boo. Vote. People need to get in the game. That's how you get a piece of the pie.
That's right.
Very, very true. So I know you got to go. I want to just end it off by, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Also, my mom, she's from Edo State. She's Isan. Isan. So thank you, Augusta.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. And it's been the Shameless Goats.
All right. Thank you all for listening.
God bless you.